G'day, he's going. Okay, we'll dive a little bit deeper into boundaries and Crown land and private land. So, there is still, again, confusion around if you're a fisherman and you want to walk along a stream and fish, somehow, somewhere along the line, that's been muddled up and thinking that if you're a gold prospector, those same rules that a fisherman has don't apply to them. Well, no, it's the same rules regardless of what you're doing on the land. Now, in saying what you're doing on the land, I'm going to point something out, and I'll go over how this all happens, and this helps bring all this confusion back to a center point that you can actually follow and is legally binding, and it just stops all the rumor mongering. Okay, so it doesn't matter, regardless of whether you're fishing or gold panning. What it's about is your physical presence on a piece of land or a parcel of land. The activity has very little relevance to why you are there, but what we want to know is the legalities of being there. Right. So I'm going to start off. We've got a body of water here. Okay. Now it's fresh water. It's not tidal, but it still falls under the laws, boundary laws, to do with the mean high water tide mark, or natural boundaries, if you want to put it a different way. So we all know that if you've got property, all right, and you're the owner of a property, that property will have a lot number and a DP number. So if we go up over here and we go into our search, I've already put in lot number 1, plan number, and that's the plan type. So I'll hit enter and we'll have a look at this parcel of land. And there it is, completely underneath the water. Now, what is of interest is that is the actual river itself. So part of the Macquarie River does actually have a lot number and a plan number. So there's something for you to consider. That's a natural waterway that has a lot number and a DP number. Now you're going to come across that quite a bit. So the thing you're looking at here, or actually on any stream that actually has a lot number and a DP number on the natural waterway itself, is you need to be looking at the ownership. And I can pretty much guarantee you, anything that sits underneath water, it's going to be Crown land. So again, this is where the whole fishing part of it comes into the controversy that's been going around with prospecting. The only reason that the whole fishing thing comes into it is these guys actually give you the best definition and explanation of these laws regarding those boundaries. So I say this is just the legislation, policy and guidelines, but this also applies to people that want to go gold panning along a stream. Yeah, you can drill right down into it and you can actually look at again, this free passage legislation, it talks about putting in things like dam walls. You can see that physical barrier there. So they have actually stopped the free passage of fish in this stream. So there has to be approvals made for that to have a physical barrier put in there to that will prevent fish from travelling along the stream. So, yeah, rules and regs. So another interesting thing with this, while I'm sitting here, we know that has land there. But what about underneath the entire dam? Let's bring up some surveyed boundaries. Oh, look at all the boundaries that lay underneath the water. In fact, every single boundary that joins that river, the Macquarie River, underneath the dam, they're all under the same ownership. Correct. Crown land. So by definition of the law, anything that sits underneath water, and I'm going to talk freshwater, I'm not going to go ocean. Look, very quickly, if you want to talk ocean, it's 40 mile from the coastline out. That is deemed to be crown land underneath the ocean floor. But we're not going there. We just want to deal with freshwater. Anything that sits underneath water is by definition owned by the Crown. Now, it's not hard to figure this stuff out. I say stop listening to what other people are telling you. If you don't know that what they're telling you is 100% correct, do not listen to it. All right? Go, yep, I heard what you said. I don't actually think that's correct. I'm going to go and check for myself. Once you've checked for yourself, then you know 100% you are correct or you are incorrect. So this is where knowing how to do this stuff clears up a lot of the confusion. And again, all these properties have all got lot numbers and DP numbers. So the reason those numbers still exist and the lot boundaries still exist is if you create an artificial lake, and I say that's basically what this is, it's an artificial lake. Any previous properties and boundaries that were there before the lake, they must remain. And that's a legality thing. I mean, yeah, there is no simpler way to explain it. For legal reasons, it must remain because there are historical records that belong to these blocks. You can't just wipe them and get rid of them. So you can actually look back in time and see who owns these blocks of land. So that's the reason why they don't remove them, even though that you physically can't go and trespass on this land anymore. Yeah, they must remain for legal reasons. So definition of permanent stream and intermittent land underwater. This is where you need to understand the difference. So if the land underneath water is 100% Crown land, what happens if there's no water in the stream? Does it revert back to being private land? Again, it comes under the definition. If it is defined as being a permanent waterway, then yes, the river or creek or stream remains Crown land. If it is intermittent and only has water in it some of the time, then more than likely it will be deemed as private land. So if you wanted to go up somewhere that had an intermittent stream, and I say it was when I talked about Maru Creek, Maru River, that's where you get the boundaries that cross over it, where it goes from being what is classified as a permanent waterway which means if it's permanent, you can negotiate it. And again, this is where the confusion comes in. You can negotiate it in a vessel, be it a canoe, a boat, whatever, because under the definition, it is permanent and you can float something on it. If it's intermittent, then no. And this is why it goes from being falls under Crown land and goes back to private land, because you can't float something on rocks. It doesn't work. All right, well, that was just another quick video just to, I say, go a bit further into understanding about waterways and where your legal rights are as to whether or not you can be on a stream or whether in fact you are on private property. All right, hope that helped. Have a great day wherever you are, and until the next video, have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.